Welcome back, Bears fans, to another episode of the Bears Brothers podcast, and welcome to our weekly game preview episode as we are all set to break down this week's matchup against the 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles. I'm your host, Will DeWitt. I'm joined by my fellow Bears brother, Brandon Hazlett and Nicholas Moriano. Brothers, how's it going? And Brandon, I know you're having some internet issues, so you are audio only.
That is correct, but boy, do I look good sitting in that chair.
You do. You really do. How about you, Nick?
I'm doing well. I mean, it's around Thanksgiving time, and so it's all good, but I'm ready to do the show.
Yes, exactly. Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so I thought it would be neat to open up this show by going around the horn and just share something that we're thankful for. Let's get into the festive season here. And Brandon, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I'm just thankful for friends and family that have been able to support us throughout this adventure that we've started with the Bears Brothers, as well as being supportive and loving outside of things outside of this. So just really thankful that I've got a good surrounding cast around me.
Hey, that's something definitely to be thankful for. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, same thing. I'm thankful for my friends, family, girlfriend, my job that I have, and I'm thankful for you guys because without you guys finding me about 2 years ago, who knows what I'd be doing? I'd be just complaining about the Bears being awful to who knows who. And I'm also grateful for our fans because without them, we wouldn't be here. And thank goodness they're here. They tune in each and every week, despite the Bears not being, the team that we want them to be. They're always here, listening to us, and I'm grateful for you guys.
Oh, that's so. You guys are just so kind. I don't want to say the same exact thing. Just know it's implied, but I'm going to go more Bears specific here, just to give something a little bit different. I'm sure Bears fans are thankful for two things this week. The first one is that Connor Barth, he is gone. Sayonara, Connor Barth. We don't have to ever say that name after the sentence. And the second one is that Leonard Floyd's injury does not look to be nearly as severe as we thought it was on Sunday. So those are just two things that I'm sure Bears fans as a whole are thankful for. But I love the approach that you guys took. I didn't know where you guys are going to take that question, and I'm thankful for both of you guys too. And of course, everyone listening and watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. But despite the holiday week, we are adhering to our goal of making you the most informed Bears fan on game day, but we also understand that family takes precedence during this week, and thus, we're going to keep today's preview just a little bit shorter than normal, so let's just not waste any more time and jump right into the preview and begin with Chicago's defense, a unit that has struggled over the past 2 weeks without Danny Trevathan. Things don't get any easier this week whatsoever going up the Eagles offense that enters the game ranked 15th through the year, 233 yards per game, and second on the ground, 144.6 yards per game, which I don't have to tell you is pretty good. But let's start with their aerial attack. Carson Wentz has put together a spectacular sophomore campaign. He's currently fourth in the NFL amongst active passers with a 103.4 passer rating. That does bump down to sixth if you want to add in Tariq Cohen and Pat O'Donnell above him with those perfect passer ratings that they have this season. But Wentz, he also has that 25-5 touchdown interception ratio, which is just so impressive. And by the way, those 25 touchdowns lead the entire league. Wentz, he is averaging a touchdown on every 9 passing attempts over his last 6 games. That is scary good. The 3 main guys we need to worry about is Nelson Agholor, Zach Ertz, and Alshon Jeffrey. That trio combines for 17 touchdowns and 17 plays of 20-plus yards. They've just been a nightmare for opposing teams all season long, and they've gotten better as the season has wore on. So, guys, this is leading into one of those simple questions with probably a complicated answer. What must our Bears do to slow down Wentz and these Eagles? And to be fair, that might just be an impossible task. And also, who kind of scares you the most in terms of the weapons that they have on offense? And Brandon, we'll go over to you.
I'm going to keep it simple with this answer. I'm going to say it's just simply a trenches game because this Eagles offensive line is just so good, and that's why they're second in the league in rushing yards per game, 144.6, like you already said. But not only that, they've only given up 1 less sacks than the Bears have. The Eagles given up 24 sacks to the Bears 25. So this is just all around a very good unit up front. So really, if the Bears can, kind of like what we've been saying and what Akeem Hicks said all the way back in week 1 about the number one priority for this defense being stopping the run, I think they can limit how effective the passing game can be because they're going to work hand in hand with each other. That's just kind of what I seen on Sunday night when the Eagles played Dallas. But who scares me the most? It's a guy that you touched on and talked highly about, Carson Wentz, because I said a couple off seasons ago how good he was going to be, and so far I don't think that I'm wrong. I mean, you already said he's a good athlete, can escape pressure. He's got the IQ to be a great quarterback. And he's got one heck of an arm. Did you guys see that pass to Alshon at the goal line Sunday night? He just put it in a tight window where only Alshon was going to get to that ball, and that is some real serious talent.
Yeah, no, it really is, for sure. Yeah, good stuff there. Wentz, he scares the daylights out of me going up against him this week, which I'm sure most Bears fans are definitely feeling the same. But how about you, Nick? Looking at maybe perhaps the wide receivers and through the air, who are you kind of focusing in on and probably worrying about? Is it going to be Alshon?
It's got to be Alshon. He's coming back, or well, he's going to be in Philadelphia playing against his old team. You know he's going to want to play a great game. He has to. I think obviously the Bears not giving him that contract. He's going to show him, hey, this is what I can do. He guaranteed they'd win the Super Bowl. He didn't say with what team. And it looks like right now with the Eagles, they're they're on pace to get to that, maybe the big game. But yeah, he's just been dominant the last 3 games. He has 12 receptions, 213 yards, 4 touchdowns, 17.8 yards per reception. Has 2 2-point conversions, and he's already played. Obviously, he was with the Bears, so he knows that defense. He knows Kyle Fuller, and if he's the one on him, I think Alshon Jeffrey might have, that advantage. Kyle Fuller has not been playing as good, these past couple weeks, and Alshon Jeffrey has been playing phenomenal. So, he's going to want to play his best game against his former team, and that's a guy that the Bears really need to worry about.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think Alshon as well, he's leading the Eagles in red zone touchdowns as well, and that's pretty much everything that we hoped Alshon would become here in Chicago. He's had a little bit of a rough go early on this season, but like we learned from our guest yesterday, ever since the second half of the season kind of got underway, Alshon Jeffrey just elevated his game to another level. But guys, we're keeping the show brief, so we're just going to move right along here. And let's take a look at the matchup on the ground. The Eagles are putting up, like I said, a whopping 144 rushing yards per game. And ever since Jay Ajayi has joined the team, they've gotten just so much better as he's been able to be that guy to hit those home run plays. They use a committee out of the backfield as the carries are split up between Ajayi, LeGarrette Blount, and Corey Clement. This allows them to, of course, keep defenses on their toes with the different styles that these running backs employ. And, of course, it just keeps all of those backs fresh. Keep in mind that Akeem Hicks, Danny Trevathan, and we know all too well that Leonard Floyd, he didn't practice today. Floyd, he's the obvious one, but if the Bears can't get Trevathan and even Hicks maybe out there this week, I mean, that is just, a recipe for disaster. So, guys, what will it take for our Bears to go out there? And I'm calling this slaying the 3-headed monster that is the Eagles' backfield. And, Nick, I'll kick it over to you first.
Yeah, the Bears have to play perfect with who they have. And like you said, Floyd obviously didn't practice today, probably done for the season. Hicks didn't practice, and Trevathan. If Trevathan and Hicks can't go for Sunday, I don't think there's any way that the Bears defense can really honestly stop those 3 running backs for the Eagles. They have all a different kind of style of running, and LeGarrette Blount's going to be that big bruiser. Jai's more of he's a little faster than him. He can also run you over, but there's just so many factors that play into this. And what if you have Christian Jones, Nick Kwiatkowski out there again? We saw some miscommunication against the Lions that could definitely play a factor into this game on Sunday. And if you don't have the anchor up front for the defensive line, Akeem Hicks playing, that's just going to create a lot of bad things. So it's going to take a lot of things have to go perfect for the Bears defense to be able to stop them. So I just don't honestly see that happening. And, those guys not practicing today, that does not give me confidence that, they might be able to play on Sunday.
Yeah, I think playing perfect might be the theme for this entire Bears game team leading into this game, because going up against probably the best team in the NFL right now, you just have to give that perfect game. But Brandon, looking at this battle on the ground for this Bears defense, what's your take?
When there's a lack of talent on the field, Akeem Hicks, Leonard Floyd, Danny Trevathan, specifically, I think it's just going to be more discipline, knowing what your gap is, because we've seen a couple times these last 2 weeks that we've got 2 guys in one gap that leaves, one open, if you do a little bit of math there. So it's going to be tough, definitely without that talent there, being able to recognize where their gaps are and things like that, guys that typically aren't used to playing. But I think most importantly, it's going to be once you make contact with him, the running back, whoever it is, one of the 3 guys, bring him down. Don't just try and go for these arm tackle, force fumble things. Make sure that the first guy who hits him attempts to bring him down to the ground instead of trying to force a turnover. Let the other guys who come in to help the tackle try and force those turnovers. But it's really, I think, going to be a fundamental as far as trying to going to be a fundamental game as far as trying to slow down this running game, because there's just a lot of talent. If Akeem Hicks, Danny Trevathan, and obviously Leonard Floyd's not going, that's just going to make it that much harder.
Exactly. For me, when I was preparing for this game, taking a look at the splits, watching some film, the one thing that I noticed in terms of the Eagles' tendencies is that they really favored the middle of the field. They rush right in between the tackles over 1/3 of all the running plays. So that puts a lot of pressure on guys like, Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks, if he plays, and of course, Mitch Unrein as well, to clog up those running lanes and keep them free for the linebackers to go in there, swoop up, make the tackle. But we also need to have those guys step up, make plays coming from the backside. That's something we saw Mitch Unrein do a pretty decent job of last week against the Lions. So I want to see him do that again. And if Akeem Hicks is able to go, I trust that Hicks will be able to go. He's just one of those guys he can play through pain, and he's just one of those grinding type of players. But he's still going to have a tough day ahead, because he's beaten up, and he's going to be going up against Brandon Brooks, the guard, and also the center, Jason Kelsey, who both are having just excellent seasons. Of course, this is a really good Eagles offensive line, which is a big reason why they're averaging over 140 yards on the ground per game. But guys, that's all I have really in a running game. I just want to just go right into our X Factor section of the show. Nick, how about you? Who's your X Factor on defense?
On defense, I mean, I think that if the Bears are able to stop their running game, make them maybe a little one-dimensional, and the person that I think who's going to have to be able to do that, if called upon, is going to have to be Nick Kwiatkowski, getting the guys set, having that defense and making sure they know what their alignments are. Like you said, Brandon, not having people go in the same gap, whether it's Christian Jones or Nick Kwiatkowski playing that role where they have the headset, it's going to be huge because whoever does that, because you have one gap, misalignment or anything like that against these Eagles running backs, they're going to exploit that real quick. So it's going to be whoever has the mic linebacker is going to be the X factor in this game.
All right, well, that's pretty funny because I have Danny Trevathan because I hope he is going to be out there to be the mic because he just has to find a way to get back onto that field. He's still out with that calf injury again today. That's now over 2 weeks for him, but we really do need him in this one. The Bears defense was able to hold Detroit on the ground without him, but again, we talked about it all last week. Detroit had probably the worst rushing attack in all of football entering that game. We just need Trevathan to go out there in order to have the best chance of slowing down Ajayi, Blunt, and Clement. And I really hope he's out there because with him, the defense just plays so much better. Without him, not so much. Brandon, how about you? Who's your X factor?
I'm actually going to give it to Eddie Jackson. I think if you run the ball as much as, well, I think we can all say from experience that when a team runs the ball a lot, teams are more likely to stack the box, kind of lull some of these safeties to sleep, kind of come up and try and make a play because they're not getting much action back there. So if Eddie Jackson isn't disciplined enough to stay back and be that center fielder that we need him to be, there's going to be some plays made over the top that are ultimately going to put this game away. So hopefully he plays disciplined in his assignments as well.
All right, so that's it for the X Factors, guys. It's really all I have on this Bears defense, Eagles offense, but how about you? Anything else in your notes that we should mention on? Maybe some players that you're looking forward to watching, like maybe Isaiah Irving in his debut here with Leonard Floyd out. I'm assuming debut, or at least getting some more snaps over here on defense is kind of where I'm getting at, but how about you guys? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think those outside linebackers for our defense are going to have to play huge in just containing these Eagles running backs. And like you said, Isaiah Irving, a young guy, is going to be put in a role, probably play some significant time this Sunday. Let's see how he plays. I know he made a couple of good plays, especially on special teams against the Lions last week. So let's see what a young guy can do. This is a perfect opportunity for him with Leonard Floyd going down. It's going to be a tough matchup for sure because all those, that Eagles offense is outstanding. But yeah, those outside linebackers, see if they can get any type of pressure on Carson Wentz or just be able to stay in their gaps.
All right, how about you, B?
Hopefully I don't give too much away for later in the show, but I'm interested to see how much Mitch Underine contributes. He had a pretty quiet game last one, but he still was up there at the top of the stat sheet for tackles. Didn't lead the team, but he was up there. I'm interested to see if Hicks, Trevathan, or Floyd don't play, how much of an impact that he's going to make himself felt in this one.
All right. For me, I'm just looking at this Eagles offense again, that they've scored 30-plus points in the last 5 out of their 6 games. So, heck, maybe if we find a way to keep them under 30, it's one of those moral victories. I don't like to ever say that. I'm sure if you actually go back and listen to all of our podcasts, I probably said those words maybe once or twice over the past 3 years. But in a game like this, that might just be one of those moral victories. And on top of that, it's going to be imperative, like it is every week, to keep this team out of the red zone. It's going to be pretty tough to do because 17 of Wentz's 25 touchdown passes have been in the red zone. And on top of that, once they reach the red zone, they are like pretty much the best team in the red zone this season. And they're the only team in the NFL without a turnover or sack in the red zone this season. So no matter which way you try to spin this, it's very difficult for this Bears defense this week. So with that said, and I had to put in my catchphrase there, let's go ahead and find out who has the edge. And Brandon, I'll give you that Eagles offensive line versus this beaten up Bears pass rush.
Yeah, I've got to give it to the Eagles offensive line. The Bears are just going to be without some pieces from the sounds of it, whether or not all of them. Well, we know Leonard Floyd's not, but if 2 of the 3 can play, I still have to give it to this Eagles offensive line. Once this offense gets in a groove, they are just very tough to slow down.
All right, Nick, I'm going to give you the Eagles rushing attack versus that Bears run defense.
Again, I'm going to have to go with the Eagles rushing attack because we don't know who's going to be playing in the middle of the field there. And again, even with our guys fully healthy, this is still a tough team to stop. So I'm going to have to give it to the Eagles rushing attack.
That's fair. For me, I have the Eagles passing attack versus this Bears secondary. Carson Wentz leads the NFL with 25 touchdowns. Only have 5 interceptions on the season. Alshon Jeffries getting better as the season goes along. And by the way, I said Alshon Jeffrey is not Alshon Jeffries. I want to make sure people know that. He's been gone for a year. I'm not turning into those Alshon Jeffries people. But obviously, I'm going to give the edge here to the Eagles' passing attack. But that wraps up our defensive discussion. And before we turn the tables and preview Chicago's offense, a unit that had what I'm calling a mini coming out party last week against the Lions, I need to tell you a little bit about our friends over at SeatGeek. Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated, but there's a better, simpler way to buy with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to live events. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing quite like seeing your favorite team or musician in person, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. As you know, all 3 of the Bears brothers have the SeatGeek apps on our phone. It's by far the easiest way we've been able to shop for tickets. We can be anywhere, just pull out our phones. Brandon actually just got a new one, so I'm sure he has to re-download the app, but we can instantly find some seats. I actually just looked, actually from tickets in Philadelphia. If you actually are in the area and you want to go see the Bears go play for some reason up in that area, there's still plenty of amazing deals left. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever. Make SeatGeek your go-to app for finding the best deals on every type of ticket, from sports and concerts to comedy and theater. The best part of all of this is that our listeners get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code BEARS today. That's promo code BEARS, BEARS, for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Alrighty, you're listening to the Bears Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Will DeWitt, joined by my fellow Bears brothers, Brandon Hazlett and Nicholas Moriano, and we are now setting our sights on Chicago's offense, which will, just like its defense, have its hands full going up against that Eagles defense that is first against the run, only giving up 71 yards per game on the ground, and they're 19th against the pass, giving up about 236 yards per game. But let's start with the Eagles' stout run defense, as I think it's going to give this offense the most fits. We just know all too well how much our offense lives or die by that running game. And entering the week, the Bears are 5th in the NFL with 131 rushing yards per game. Jordan Howard's coming off his 11th career 100-yard game when the 125-yard performance last week against Detroit. The Eagles have only allowed 2 opposing backs to get more than 38 yards against them. One of them was last week in Alfred Morris when she had 91. We also learned yesterday from our guest that the Eagles' run defense, it all starts up front, which, makes complete sense. Games are won and lost in the trenches. I'm sure I can't see Brandon because he's not on video, but I'm sure he's nodding appropriately. But that puts a ton of pressure on that offensive line for Chicago really to perform. And they're going to have their hands full from the first to final snap. So, guys, what are your expectations for the running game this week? I'm sure the outlook is not as favorable as it is most weeks, but going up against a stingy defense, what would be perhaps enough for you to consider this a job well done? And Brandon, I'll go to you.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a tough task, but I'm just curious to know how effective they're going to be in different looks, because I think if we see Jordan Howard, we've seen him line up as a fullback against Detroit, and he ended up getting a pretty good gain on one of those runs where he lined up there with Tariq Cohen behind him in like this pistol set against the Lions. So I'm kind of interested to see how the Eagles plan to handle both Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard if they're both on the field, because that gives the Bears some versatility to use back there to try and get something going, because defenses have to, at least as we've seen so far, try and respect Tariq Cohen because they know that he can be that home run hitter. So if they can generate a run game by doing some different odd things, which is kind of a stretch for our play caller, I think I would say that's enough. Quote unquote enough, because I'm not sure that they can stretch either side with Howard as effectively as they did against Detroit.
Right. So you're trying to say that Dow Loggins needs to kind of keep up what he was doing last week and being creative and not as predictable as he's typically been this season? Yeah.
Yes.
Makes complete sense. Obviously, that's something that all Bears fans have been asking for all season long. Nick, how about you? What are your expectations, and what would be enough to be a successful game on the ground for Chicago?
Yeah, I don't have very high expectations, especially because this is the #1 run defense in the league. And I actually, before we went live, I actually read like a nitpick article from Philly.com. The reporter is Les Bowen, and he said that the Eagles actually need to improve in their run game because they gave up 112 yards against Dallas. And they said the weakest point was attacking the edges. And he was saying that, no, the Bears are definitely going to see that. But the Eagles know that they need to address that situation. The edge rushing where the Cowboys were effective, that's what the Bears are going to want to replicate this game. Will they be able to do that? I don't know. I don't believe so, just because of all the playmakers, the defense that they have there. But the Eagles have faced the fewest rushing attempts in the league so far this season with 193 in 10 games. That's like about 20 a game. You know, when Howard gets 20, it's usually a pretty good thing for the Bears. But I don't know if that's going to be the case this week, but I think Brandon said it all right there. I think last week they had a good mix of having different formations, having Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard on the field. That creates a lot of mismatches for this defense. They have to key on Cohen, regardless of what he does. If he just goes for, he just moves left, there's going to be like 3 guys keying in on him because he's that big of a factor. So they do similar what they did. That's going to be, maybe they'll have a somewhat effective game in the running game, but I don't know if they're able to run the ball effectively and still get blown out by 40. I don't know if that's a job well done. They need to be able to keep. They need to be able to keep Carson Wentz and that offense off the field, win time of possession, and run the ball effectively for me to give it a job well done. If they come out with a victory, that's a job well done, but I just don't see it happening whatsoever. I'm sorry to be like so down, but they're just so good in the run game.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the 9-1 Eagles versus our Bears. It's one of those things where if we come out here and really think they have a legitimate chance, again, it's the NFL, anything can happen, but I think we would lose some credibility for like, oh yeah, the Bears are just going to dominate in all 3 phases of this game. It's just not going to happen. But for me, guys, what I'm watching for, I'm not doing my matchups and keys post, and podcasts this week due to the holidays, but looking at some matchups actually real quick in this podcast. The one I have is going to be how Howard does against the Eagles linebackers, Michael Kendricks and Nigel Bradham, for instance, because Howard, he does lead the league with yards after contact. I think he's going to have to continue, just fighting for extra yards, much more in this game than he actually probably has all season long going up against this Eagles defense. But how he kind of manages those 2 linebackers, I think it's going to be a pivotal point of how this Bears offense can go out there and move the ball on the ground. But that's all I have for this game on the ground for the Bears offense. Let's move over the Bears passing game. And even though the Eagles defense is ranked similar against the pass to last week's opponents, the Lions, I think it's largely due to the fact that Philadelphia just makes teams so one-dimensional by having that great run defense, which means that they're going to be getting passed on more than any other team. And in fact, when you take a look at the stats, Nick just told you the teams run the ball the least on them. And no shocker here, they actually are the team that are getting the most passes attempted on them with 395 attempts so far this season. And despite that fact, this defense allows the 5th lower passer rating this season, 76.9. This is an Eagles pass defense that has allowed 2 touchdowns and an average of 173.3 yards per game over the last 3 outings. They also lead the league with 14 interceptions, so not to alarm anyone, but they're pretty damn good against the pass as well. We saw the most effective and maybe creative game through the year for Chicago last week against Detroit, and obviously we'll have to keep it up or even disapprove on it to have any sort of chance. So looking at all this, guys, what are your expectations for Trubisky and company, and what are some of the matchups that maybe you're going to be keeping an eye on? And Brandon, I'll go over to you.
I've kind of got some low expectations because I'm just not 100% sure what Dow Logan's trust is with Trubisky at this point. We've seen the playbook open up a little bit, but it's just hard to tell exactly where it's at right now because the Eagles also have the 2nd most interceptions on defense this season. They have 29 sacks, just like the Bears do, so they know how to get after the quarterback. But if we're looking at matchups, the guy I'm going to keep my eye on is Adam Shaheen because he started to show himself when Zach Miller went down with that injury. I think this is a game where he can really show that he's a solid security blanket because of his size and his catch radius that we've seen in training camp but haven't necessarily seen it quite yet this year. So maybe this is a coming out game because if True needs to hit a quick check down guy, I don't think he has to be 8 yards downfield to necessarily be effective. As long as there's forward progress for this offense, I think we're headed in the right direction in this game because this is a just all-around tough matchup for the Bears offense as well. So he's really the only one guy that I'm going to pay attention to because as we've kind of seen, we've seen some questionable personnel decisions being out there on the field. So it's also just kind of hard to tell who's going to be out there in certain situations.
Exactly. I know Deion Sims, he's coming back. It seems like from this weird, mysterious illness that's been plaguing him for these past couple weeks as well. But Adam Shaheen, someone who I circled too in preparation for this podcast, because the Eagles have actually given up a couple big games to tight ends this year. Travis Kelce in their lone loss, he had 8 catches, 103 yards and a touchdown. And then Jordan Reed was able to have 8 catches, 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm not saying Shaheen is on the level of Kelce and Reed yet, but maybe this is an area where the Bears can exploit, like you said, Brandon. But how about you, Nick? What are you keeping an eye on?
Well, I mean, just factoring all the stats and what the Bears are going to be able to do in the passing game, I'm not very confident in anything that's about to happen this Sunday because Dow Loggins is going to play a huge factor. Then if they're not able to run the ball effectively, Trubisky's going to be in those terrible situations, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, those bad situations. And we know what happens. They're going to bring the blitz. They're going to bring, guys off the edges, and Trubisky's going to have to read the blitz and know where's checkdowns at, where his hot rate is at. So this, I think, and I hate to say this, but I think this may be one of those games where Trubisky's probably doesn't want to look at the film afterwards because, again, you said they lead the league in interceptions. That's not a statistic that you want going in, especially with them being the number one defense against the run. So they're going to make you one-dimensional. And if Trubisky, doesn't look off safeties, there's going to be potential for these guys in the Eagles secondary to pick off Trubisky. And I think just putting this out there, I think this may be his worst game. I know he had a really good game against Detroit, but just the way the Eagles are playing, they're going to force the Bears. They have to throw the ball. They have to keep up scoring points. And just the way their defense is playing, this could be a game where Trubisky, like I said, let's just throw this film away. This is not one I want to look at because this is a very, very tough matchup.
It really is. And I think we talked about it yesterday as well in our Meet the Eagles podcast, but that Eagles defense is also, I believe they were second in the NFL on third down as well. And they're really good. The guest told us that they pretty much force people on third and longs all the time. So the Bears are going to be asked a lot out of the rookie Trubisky. We'll see exactly what he has in store. If he wants to have a decent game, I have one bit of advice, and that is to avoid Patrick Robinson. He's having a lockdown year. He's tied for a team-high 3 interceptions. He leads the Eagles with 15 passes defense. He can play both nickel and as a lockdown receivers along the outside. Pace, he knows him all too well. He was a draft pick for the Saints in 2010. He's only allowing a passer rating of 66.8 on the 55 balls thrown his direction so far this season. He's very much along the lines of Darius Slay as well, and we saw exactly how much fit he gave the Chicago's offense last week. I said to avoid Darius Slay. We didn't, and he almost got a couple interceptions. So if you can, just please try to avoid Patrick Robinson, inside, outside, wherever he's at. Just find a way to avoid him. But guys, that's really it for the matchups through the air and the matchups on the ground for Chicago's offense. So who's going to be your X factor? And I'll go to Nick first.
Oh, man, an X factor on offense. If the Bears want to have a successful day, it's going to start with Trubisky. I mean, it really is. I know I said Dow Loggins last week, and, he had a better game plan. He did. But, I mean, that didn't translate to a win. But the Bears want to be somewhat in this game. Trubisky's going to have a good game. He's going to have to escape the pocket, use his legs to, get some yards on the ground because this defense is really good. But Trubisky's got to be able to throw accurate passes, make the right decisions, avoid pressure, win the game, do everything for this Bears offense to be successful on Sunday.
Yep, it's all going to hinge on number 10, no doubt about it. But how about you, B? Anything different in your opinion?
I was going to give it to Kyle Long because I'm just curious to see how much the Kyle Long effect in the run game actually, I guess, is effective in this one against the tough Eagles run defense.
All right. For me, I actually put none at first. I was going to say Jordan Howard, but really that his success is going to hinge on the play of the guys up front. So I'm probably going to give the X factor to the entire offensive line. If they can get leverage, win the battles in the trenches, which again won't be easy. But if you look back at last week, how much you pay attention to Pro Football Focus or take stock in it, I think every Bear lineman, all despite actually Brandon's X factor, Kyle Long, had one of their best games of the season, all finished in top 5 of their respective positions. So if they can come out firing and even elevate their play from last week against Detroit, just kind of build off of that performance, there's a chance we can get the ball moving on the ground. And of course, doing so is going to go a long way towards this Bears offensive success. But again, don't really hold your breath in this one because the Eagles are, they're pretty good if you haven't figured that out by now. But that's all I have, guys, on this Bears offense, Eagles defense. Anything else that you would like to hit on before we move on?
Not really. I think we said about everything that we needed to about this Bears offense and Eagles defense.
You agree with that, Brandon?
That's where I'm at as well.
Okay, I'm going to give my typical red zone alert. That seems like that's been the theme for me over these past couple of weeks. But over the last 3 games, the Eagles defense is the second best in the red zone, only allowing opponents to score touchdowns on 1/5 of their red zone trips. That's right, only a 20% success rate against that Eagles defense in the red zone. So, holy moly, that's really good. When he can do that with their offense as well, it's just a recipe for success, one that hopefully we can have here in Chicago 1 year here soon. But guys, let's go into the who has the edge, and I will go ahead and give Brandon, let's give him the Eagles pass rush versus this Bears offensive line.
I think this one's largely going to be a stalemate. It's going to be very tough. These are 2 very good fronts, but I'm going to give the Bears an advantage in this game. It's going to be here on the offensive line because I gave that stat last week how Trubisky has the 7th most time in the pocket to throw with 2.84 seconds. I don't know necessarily how effective that's going to be in this game with the secondary for Philadelphia being as good as it is. So I think it's largely going to be a stalemate there. So I'll kind of give a little bit of an edge to the Bears offensive line just because I don't know that we have another edge somewhere.
Well, I know last week you guys were looking for the sweep, or 2 weeks ago against the Packers, you're looking for the sweep in the Bears.
I was looking for it. Yeah.
And we didn't get that. And hey, they didn't get swept here in our edges. So that's one of those moral victories yet again. But how about you, Nick? I'm going to give you the Eagles run defense versus this Bears rushing attack.
I'm going to give it to the Eagles run defense. And before you even said the matchups, I was just going to say Eagles. Straight through. But Brandon, hey, I'm glad you picked the Bears, but I will go with the Eagles. I know the Bears have been effective running the football, and they had a really good day last week against Detroit. But this Eagles run defense is something that they have not faced this year, so they're going to really be tested. So I'm going to give it to the Eagles.
Hey, who knows? Maybe they can surprise us, put together a good game on the ground. I know our guest yesterday as well said that Chicago's rushing attack is probably the best that they're going to face all season long. So at least we're getting a little bit of respect here in Chicago. But for me, I have the Eagles secondary versus the Bears passing attack. Obviously, I got to go with the Eagles secondary here just for all the stats and figures and on everything that we talked about as well just a moment ago. And don't forget as well just the fact that I want the Bears just to avoid Patrick Robinson. I think that was who I told them to avoid. So yeah, just avoid him. But I don't think that's viable, and we'll see. Hopefully this is a game where we can just get a little bit more going as well. It doesn't need to be big gains, but just getting guys involved, building some confidence, going up against a good defense. We'll see exactly as all stacks up. But right now, Eagles secondary with the obvious edge here. So guys, let's enter the final portion of our preview, which always begins with a bold prediction. I'm interested to see what you guys have here going up in this game, and I'll go to Brandon first. What's going to be your bold prediction?
I think my bold prediction is going to be that the Bears are +2 in the turnover column in this game.
Well, that's bold. That's bold. I like it, though. I like it. How about you, Nick?
That's a good question. Bold prediction. Well, it doesn't seem like they want to put Ajax in there at punt return. I really want to see him back there, so I won't say that same bold prediction. But even though I hyped up Alshon Jeffrey earlier, he doesn't get in the end zone this game. He does not have a touchdown against his former team.
All right. Honestly, that would be one of those moral victories. I'm going to find another one. I got to find a third way to get that acclimated into this preview show. But for me, my bold prediction is going to be that the Bears find a way to move the ball, but they're going to struggle on the Eagles' half of the field. We've seen it all season long. So with that, we're going to get to see plenty of Cairo Santos. He'll hit every kick requested of him. And by the end of the game, we're all going to forget about number 4. The name already escapes my mind. That's how much I've been wanting to forget about good old you-know-who. So that said, and I had to get my catchphrase in too one more time, let's go ahead and predict the most valuable Bear this Sunday. And Nick, I'll go to you.
Well, I said that Trubisky had to be the X factor, so I'm going to say he's the most valuable Bear on Sunday. I want to see how, because this year really is all about him and progressing. Let's see how he does against one of the top defenses in the league. And I didn't think he's going to have a good game, but let's see how he fares against it, because that's going to happen, throughout his entire career. He's going to have to face these tough defenses. So I want to say that he's going to be the most valuable Bear, but we'll see what happens. This defense is just so good. And I keep saying that at the back of every answer. This defense is just so good, but it really is. I mean, that's going to play a factor into this entire game on Sunday.
Exactly. How about you, B?
Earlier, I alluded to hopefully not giving away anything about Majonrine, but I'm going to put him as my MVP because I think without Leonard Floyd, Akeem Hicks, and Danny Trevathan, I think he puts a little bit more responsibility on his shoulder and tries to make a bigger impact. He's had a very quiet year so far, and I think he's going to have a quietly impactful game in this one as well.
All right, Mitch Hunright. It's probably the first time that he and MVP has been in the same sentence, maybe throughout the entirety of these past 2 seasons. But for me, guys, my MVP prediction is going to be if he returns Danny Trevathan. I love the Danny Trevathan effect. The Bears give up less than 100 yards per game on the ground when he's in there, and the Eagles having 144 plus yards per game on average. We need Danny Trevathan back, and I think we can get him out there and we find a way to limit what the Eagles can do on the ground. It's just going to prove just how valuable he is to this defense. That'd be a huge win in my book. So hopefully Danny Trevathan comes back. He's as impactful as ever, and he can become the MVP this Sunday. But moving on, let's go ahead and predict this game. Brandon, you're at the lead. You're now at 500 this season. You're at 5-5. Nick, you're at 3-7. I'm still in the basement at 2-8. So Brandon, you get the choice of first or last. What are you going to do?
I'm going to go first in this one. I think it's going to be kind of an easy prediction on this one. It is just tough to pick the Bears in this one. The Eagles are just playing lights out, playing so well. Just all around a very good team. So I got to give it to Philadelphia in this one, 24-14.
All right. Ooh, 24. So you keep them under 30 points. That's one of those.
The moral victory thing.
Yeah, one of those MVs. That we're just going to shorten it now. MVs. How about you, Nick? What's going to be your prediction?
Well, I don't think they hold the Eagles under 30. It's going to be like 37 to maybe 17. If they can score 17, the Bears, because the Eagles, they've scored 36 on 10 of their opponents. So they're going to make it 7 this Sunday. Eagles win 37-17.
All right. For me, I have the Eagles winning, of course. I should just went for the Bears to actually try to gain a game here, even though I think I'm pretty much out of the contention to even find a way to catch up. But I have the Eagles winning 27-12, and the Bears 12 is all four going to be field goals from Santos. And then we can definitely forget you know who. But honestly, it's going to be a slight trap game for the Eagles, maybe after a big divisional win. Maybe they're just not focusing on this Bears team as much as they should. So maybe the Bears can find a way to keep them under 30, keep this game closer than some expect. But we'll find out Sunday. Make sure to leave a comment with your bold prediction, your MVP, and, of course, the game outcome. Guys, before we head off, any final thoughts about the week ahead? I know we have Thanksgiving tomorrow, Black Friday on Friday, the Bears game on Sunday. So any final thoughts before we head off?
Yeah, I think that everyone should just enjoy this time. This is a great time of the year, especially the holidays. Be around family, friends that really care about you. And when it comes to Sunday, let's not have that high of expectations because we don't want to, be down at the end because this is a very good Eagles team. And I know people are saying, oh, man, well, you're not expecting for us to win. No, I'm not. So that's why when it comes Sunday when the Bears lose, I won't be as down. So don't have as high as expectations. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family. That's what it's all about right now.
There we go. Family first. How about you, B?
Yep, Nick took the words out of my mouth. Enjoy your holiday weekend.
There we go. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Keep those reviews coming over on Apple Podcasts. We really do appreciate each one that comes in. Last time I checked, we're at 104, which is just phenomenal. So thank you to those 104, and thank you in advance for anyone else who reviews our show, helps us expand our reach, and, of course, get more Bears fans listening. It's always helpful once you do that. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Bears Brothers Podcast. I want to thank you for the continued support of our show. And like I mentioned earlier, due to the holiday week, I'm not going to be able to give you my weekly mashups and keys, which honestly probably would have just reiterated everything that we talked about in this podcast as well. So if anything, I'm saving you some time. So the next time you're going to hear from us is going to be as soon as the game concludes this Sunday. But until then, have a Thanksgiving. Have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your family and your loved ones. But until next time, bear down, Chicago.